Today, I'm going to help you understand how to create and manage tasks in Primavera P6. Come follow along. All right, let's create and manage some tasks in Primavera. So what we're going to go through, we're going to add some activities. We're going to modify the activity IDs. I'm going to give you some logic on some tasks, explain some of the different types of parameters on tasks, specifically activity types, duration types, percent complete, and a few other things. So let's walk through this. First, we need a schedule. So let's start out opening a project. So one way to do it is go to this icon here. It's open project. We're just going to pick a default project for an example. Let's just use the City Center Office Building Edition. So this is just some Primavera templates. I'm going to open it up. So when the project opens up, if you see it up top, we see that we're in the actual project, but you don't see anything because we need to open some of the interfaces. So let's go to the left-hand side of the screen and click Activities. This shows you your schedule. Like I said, this is a template. This is an older example, so the dates are fairly old. Just kind of disregard that, but really need to focus on the WBS structure. So when you add these tasks, you really need to put the tasks in the WBS structure you want. So what you can do is start to open them up. So this plus icon shows the structure of the actual project, the WBS, work breakdown structure. So you can see under the main header, there's these subtasks, and then the subtasks may have additional subtasks related with them. So let's say that we want to add, what we can do, if you want to see all of them, just right click and expand all. You can scroll through this entire project, or if you want it back into that collapsed level, the highest level, just right click, collapse, and you open it back up. Okay, so let's add a task. Let's find where we want to add a task. So we're going to, let's say, add a task in structure. Let's open that up. Okay, so we're in structure and we want to add a task. So you can either click on the WBS header and just press the insert on your keyboard, or you can right click and click add. So it adds new task, which an activity, that's a Primavera term for it. So we're adding an activity. For this example, we're just going to call it new activity 1. Keep in mind, look here, so activity ID, these are columns you can add. This is the ID, this is what you're identifying the activity as. This is its unique structured number for organization. So it's really nice to use those for estimates and cost controls, so you have a unique identifier for your activity. It's a unique number series that you don't have to have the actual entire task itself. The activity name, you could just shorthand it and have the activity ID. But now let's look at, speaking about activity ID, look at the naming conventions. See how this one says EC 1870, this is S, and it looks like they're all in increments of 10. So you can change that. There's a few ways to approach that. So let's just add one more task and see what happens. So we right click and we go to add. We added another one. See, now it's the SID. We'll call this activity 2. It was the SID because I added it, I selected that task. So I think it assumed that I wanted to keep the ID. So we're going to change that though. One thing to look at before we change it is go under admin preferences, and there's a general tab, and down from general there's ID length. This sets how many characters or text boxes that you can go for these ID fields. So it's defaulted to 20, but you can make it short. If you had a really, really long project, it says you can have up to 20 characters in the name. Well, let's say if you want shorter, you can shorten it. And this would be a place to do it. You just pull the numbers down, and it would keep your IDs no greater than that specific number. So let's just say, okay, we're going to leave it at 20. Close that. So back to, we're going to add another activity here. So we'll have 3 activities. And we're going to go to add, and it's activity 3. All right, so we've got all these different IDs, and we want to keep some consistency. So we're going to change all these to what makes sense to our project. So we're selecting just one of them, and you're holding down Shift, and then you're pressing the last one to select all of them. You come up here to edit and click this, hover over it, it opens up more options, and we're going to rename activity. This is when you can get kind of custom. So before we start to make a prefix, suffix, and this increment value, let's look at maybe a good name for these IDs. Yes, we could do prefix. You could call it A with a suffix of this 1,000 in increments of, I don't know, 5. Click OK. It'll do it. So you can say, okay, task A 1005, A 1010. Or you can say, okay, this is the city center office building, and this is the structural section. So you could come in here and we said structure. You could go to the edit, open that up, renumber. You could call it maybe CC, city center, S structure, and maybe all the structural tasks are, maybe the drawing sequences are all the 5,000 maybe drawings. So you could put a suffix of 5, and then you can do every 10. You can do every 1. It really doesn't matter. Hit OK, and you can custom make that to your liking. So that's really nice. It's nice to do that early on, but as you can tell, this schedule's been developed prior. You can do it later on. All right, so we've got our activities here. Activity 1, 2, 3. Let's talk a little bit. Let's open up this details box. Let's talk a little bit about activity types. So if you look over here, these are all custom made too, but if you go under the general tab, you have activity type. And I'm just going to briefly just explain some definitions to this and some ones I use a lot. So task dependent, this one is kind of a general defaulted one. What it means is that the duration is controlled by the activity calendar. So when this task happens is driven by this activity calendar. So this activity works off trades 5 days a week calendar. So that's what it's going to abide by. If we change it to resource dependent, so let's change this task to another activity type, which is resource dependent. It goes off the resource. So you assign a resource, and that resource calendar then drives that task. So let's see what else here. We have another one here. level of effort. These are activities that do not drive the schedule. They simply just act as how they're related to other activities. So it doesn't drive the schedule, just how its related activities move. All right, let's see what else we have here. These are pretty self-explanatory. Start milestone. Just to keep in mind, milestone is 0 duration. So this is a task that it represents a start. This is when it's going to start. No duration to it. And then similar, finish milestone. That's when a task finishes. And then we've got another one here, WBS summary. This is a roll-up where any tasks underneath it, they act as it's reporting for those tasks. So it summarizes tasks within that. That's why see the duration hours. Is much longer than the defaulted 40 because it's becoming a summary of these other tasks underneath. So let's move it back to task dependent, and since we've changed our duration, let's put it back to 40. 40 is just a default, but we're going to talk about duration here in a minute, which is a great segue. So duration. So under general, we've got duration as well. So this one is the most common, I would say, type of duration. It's fixed duration and fixed unit. This is defaulted 1. This is where duration stays constant. So adding resources just increases the total units. So it's the most common for projects like construction type projects. Fixed unit and time. So the next one, fixed unit time. Fixed unit time, the work rate is locked in. So if you extend the activity's duration, we have fixed units. This is where the total work units stay constant. So if you add resources, the duration shortens. And then we have fixed duration and units. It's right here. Both duration and units stay fixed, and P6 adjusts the resource assignment rate. So there's a lot in that, but for just simple explanation, let's stick to fixed duration and unit time. All right, let's link some activities. So you can link activities a couple different ways. You can think of predecessors and successors. So let's say these go in order: activity 1, 2, 3. So activity 1, and then activity 2, then activity 3. So if you are on activity 1, its successor, the next task, is activity 2. So you come down here in successor, hit assign, and you find the task, which is activity 2, all right? And you click this box here, assign. Now it's linking activity 1, successor, activity 2. Another way to do it, we are on activity 2, and we want it linked to activity 3. So activity 2, then activity 3. You can click activity 2, hold down Control, click activity 3, right click, and click link activities. So now, see, this little symbol shows that we're sorting by start date. It goes activity 1, 2, and 3, all in a row. And visually, you can look at the Gantt chart and see that as well. So this is right here. All right. So we link these in waterfall, one after the other. What that means is activity 1 has a relationship with activity 2. So activity 1, its successor activity 2 has a finish to start relationship. And then the same with activity 2 has a successor to activity 3, which is finish to start. And if you look at it backwards, activity 3's predecessor has a finish to start relationship with activity 2. Once you start doing them, they'll make more sense, and you'll see what they do. So what you can do here, let's say that activity 1 happens. Let's click activity 1, and then there is some time till activity 2 happens. So what you can do to represent that is to add some lag. So if you go to activity 2 and you look at its predecessor, which is activity 1, and we're going to say, hey, activity 1 is going to happen, and then activity 2 is going to wait. Was going to wait 12 hours. So under lag, hit 12, and now you can see that it's pushing 12 hours from one another. And you also have to keep in mind that the calendars are a thing too, right? So it may go from the 6th to the 10th, but that's based upon the calendars that these tasks are associated with. Remember, we talked about over here, it's a general activity calendar, so there's 5 days a week. I'll show some more examples here shortly, but so that's how you can add a lag to that. You can also change the logic to start. So let's say activity 3 starts at the same time as activity 2. So that would mean that the relationship, the predecessor for activity 3 is start with activity 2. So you change to start, and now you see that activity 2 and activity 3 happen at the same time. But also keep in mind, there's other constraints with these activity calendars. All right, now that we talked about activities and how they're linked together, let's talk a little bit about percent complete types. So let's just focus on three different options. On this layout, we have duration percent complete, but I'm going to add 2 more so you can see. So I just added a column, and the columns look like this. And in here, you can either have the drop down for percent complete, or you can right click and find them. But we're going to add unit percent complete, which is right here. And we're also going to add physical percent complete. Talk about these for a minute. And you can reorganize, you can push these up here to where they are close to these others. Let's apply. Okay, so this one here, duration percent complete, is based on time. So if an activity is planned for 10 days, 5 have passed, that's going to show 50% complete. On unit percent complete, this one here, it's based on resource effort. So if you plan for 100 labor hours, 50 are spent, it's 50% complete. And then this one here in the middle, physical percent complete, that's manually entered based on the actual progress in the field. So there's different ways to represent this, especially Primavera. There's almost countless ways. For this example, we're just going to stick to the duration % complete. So let's move a couple of those, but I wanted to let you get a brief explanation of what some other options are. All right. Now I want to talk a little bit about grouping. So grouping can be found here. Up top there is an icon that says group and sort. Think of this as organizing all your tasks. So putting your tasks into different buckets, WBS, sorting it and organizing in a way that works best for the situation you're in. So right now it's based off the WBS, and we saw that. So look at here, we saw that. We're just going to right click, collapse all. We saw that the WBS is broken into all these different components, which is great. That's how schedules should be in a lot of ways. But there's other ways to represent it. So let's just remove WBS, and I'll show you what happens. So we delete that, and it's not sorted by or grouped by anything. Hit apply. It's just a massive list of tasks. All your tasks are in here. So think of all your tasks having specific logic, specific work breakdown structures that they need to be in, but they're all just listed here. Let's say that we want to see resources. Maybe a client may ask that, hey, I want to see all of certain resources work laid out. So you can go in here and group it. So if we scroll down and look, there's several of these. There's so many. This is just one option. I mean, you can really customize this too. But let's just pick, for the sake of conversation, resources. Hit apply. So now we can see that our schedule is grouped. All the tasks, activities are grouped within the resource. So I can see that the HVAC resource has these 2 tasks. But also, that's not a lot of information. So I want to know what WBS, what piece of equipment they're working into. Well, we can add layers to this. So go back to your group and sort, and let's say we want to add WBS to it, and hit apply. So now let's hit OK. Now you can see that which resource? Maybe electrician. He's working on plumbing and fixtures and lighting, and HVAC is working in the HVAC category, and this iron worker resource is working on the structure. So you can really make this however you see fit. Also, you can customize it. So you see how it says resources and finish. It's a bit long. You can link it where you're not showing the title. So hit apply. Let's see what happens there. So the resource name goes away. It's the resource, so why do you need the title? But maybe you want it. The description, you can hide if they're empty over here. If there's nothing in a WBS, you can hide it. You can indent it where it fits on a schedule, a piece of paper, a little cleaner. Like, there's just so many ways to do this. So let's just go back to this tried and true WBS, keeping it structured. We're gonna hide the ID code. That way it's a little cleaner look. All right, hit apply, okay. Let's talk a little bit about updating progress. So when we're updating a schedule, we update in the activities window, which we're in the activities window, and we're going to utilize this bottom tab quite a bit. So let's go to status. All right, Primavera does functions around day to date. So up here on top is your schedule button. A dialog box will pop up that looks like this. And it's going to tell you the date that it is in real time. This example schedule is from a long time ago, but let's pretend it's 2011. And it is let's just progress this. Let's just make a new date. Let's say it's the 2nd. It's a Monday, 8 a.m. We hit schedule. Hit OK. Hit schedule. So now that's when tasks that don't have logic, that's when it will start. So activity 1, there's no other predecessor. There's no other constraint. It starts on that day. It's a 40-hour task. Let's say it started. So you go to status and click started. So that locks it in that schedule has started. And then let's say that it's a 40-hour task and we've just started it, and then another day goes by. We schedule the task, so schedule the schedule ultimately. So let's say it's Tuesday, it's the next day. Hit apply, hit schedule. So now your schedule is moving on. And now look at this. What we need to do under the status tab, we've got some parameters on duration. So it shows that the remaining is still 48 hours. Let's say it's on track. So let's say that 8 hours working hours passed on that one day and there's 32 hours left. So that way your at complete is 40 hours. And look, that's 20%, which is what we're looking for, right? So that automatically updated for us. So let's keep going. Let's say another day passes. So now we're gonna apply this. We're gonna go Wednesday, 8 a.m. And before I hit schedule, if you go into options, there's different settings you can have on here. I like the one where the schedule automatically changes when you change the dates. I think that's nice. But you can have some that just change when it's scheduled. So it's your preference. So you hit schedule. All right, so same situation. So see at complete 48 hours, remaining 32. So we need to progress this along. You could put time in here. So let's say it's 50% complete. 50% complete at this juncture in time with the calendar shows that at complete to be 36 hours. Okay, so let's move along and say it's the next day, right? So it's the 4th and we're 50% complete overall. So you can see that it adjusts your remaining and at complete because we're 50% complete. All right, so let's go one more day, schedule this, and let's say that it's the next day, Thursday, 8 a.m. But let's actually say it is 3 p.m. I'll select, and it changes that. And let's say that the task is done at 3 p.m. So if it's done at 3 p.m., that means there's no more remaining time. So we hit 0. So it shows that at complete was 30 hours. And then to finish it, we click finish. We click finish. So that completes that one task. Look at the predecessor. Its predecessor was activity 1 that finished on 5/5. And to really focus on this thing, we have to see why it's driving to that. Well, remember we had that lag that maybe this task needs to wait 12 hours? Well, that is 12 hours from the next working day. So let's say that, just for simple math, that lag was only 1 hour. Also look at what your calendar is. So remember it's 3 o'clock. 1 hour from 3 o'clock is 4. So this program is looking at so many different things. It's looking at the calendars and the schedule. So really have to dig deep to find why things are happening the way they are. So in this instance, let's just progress this along. Let's pretend it's the next day, working day on Monday, 8 a.m. Sometimes if you do that, there you go. Select schedule. So there we go. That's how it would work there. That's Monday, 8 a.m. That's certainly past that 1 hour lag from when it finished and on the next calendar. And then you can status and start that. And then also, so that's just kind of like the gradual, how you're progressing tasks along. We'll have more videos and example of how to do that in other videos. But you could also, let's say activity 3 is not following its sequence, and you say, hey, well, this activity 3 just needs to happen on a different day. We're just going to say it's going to happen on the 10th. You can give it a constraint to start on, and then you pick a day, which we're just going to say the 10th for this example. And then now you have a constraint on that task. So that's a simple explanation of updating some adding tasks, updating them. A few tips to take away. Try to remember to keep all your tasks under the right WBS. Also, we just call these activity, but try to keep your naming clear. See how these tasks are. Begin structural phase and concrete. First floor, that's very to the point. That's a great task description. Keep your activity IDs constant, change them if you need to, reformat them if you need to. Keep the schedules to track how you need to represent your schedule. There's different levels for every type of project. You may need a lot of tasks, you may only need a few. And Primavera is a powerful tool and it could do both. And always, troubleshoot your logic. Look at why is my task saying it's supposed to be on this day? Look at, systematically look at everything. Look at the activity type, the duration, the calendar, the logic. You can see that, this is a driving task. It has that indicator on it too that you can add on these detail blocks. So that's it for creating and managing activities in P6. There you have it. That's how you create and manage tasks, Primavera P6. Like and follow for more content.